start all over so we can learn from each other as long as you're with me.
Welcome to Sheen and Whiskey. I'm your host, Old Sheen Penn, and I'd like to have you join me and my pal Whiskey Boy as we go on adventures in nature. In this debut episode, we're going to handle the shelter build. We're going to complete that work and maybe have a cookout at the campfire. So come along. I thought about developing this land and documenting it with a media series. My plan is to create a comfortable off-grid campsite while preserving as much of the natural growth as I can and still utilizing as much of the property as possible. My father developed this land and put a cabin up in the 70s. He built a camp, and over the years his little piece of paradise fell into disrepair, and I had to remove it a few years back. And ever since then I have been anticipating what to develop first. I started off with logs for a solid structure. I harvest some from my own land, like this one hanging over the creek for example, and I also sourced fallen logs and abandoned clear-cut areas like pit operations and trail development systems. I established a fair collection of straight timber that I would use in the construction. I had some great company in Whiskey. Together we spent several months working the land. This is my pal Whiskey Boy. Give me 5, Whiskey. 5. I always go natural with my boy, and we're always glad to share it with you. I put some effort into collection of gravel, and I would sift through rock and boulder. This land has a great mix of all these building materials. Larger rocks proved a real reward as I could reinforce the structure with them mighty stones. Is this a nice place for a camp, Whiskey Boy? Huh, Siggy? Oh, what a good boy. Make a nice symmetrical camp. I love the stone wall that I was able to create with the boulders I found, but this structure is meant to be wood, so I'm going to have to dig some holes for corner posts. I like to acquire building materials from refuse, so if you look around the property you will find things built from salvaged wood, often sourced in pallet form. Everything you need presents itself if you pay attention. I personally have an eye for preservation. I thought about tying it to the stick here, but then if I tied it, it would be in one state. I need to be able to rotate it. Well, I'm pleased with this product I purchased on the internet. So each of these straight logs, I take them, first thing I do is debark them, then I stockpile them. I take the bark off so they can dry out, and then they'll go in my foundation later. I built a temporary fire pit so I can maintain fires while I work, and it also doubles as great mosquito repellent. I am currently reviewing different design types for a fire pit that might house a smoker, or at the very least an oven. So stay tuned for this mason work. All that and more on Sheen and Whiskey. Old Whiskey Boy often gets bored and needs a reminder of how great it is to hang out by the fire. This preserves the wood and locks moisture out. Okay, roll over then. Roll over. Now play dead. Okay, this is for rolling over. This is for high five. This is for playing dead. You didn't do it yet. I made sure to take good measure the structure is exactly 8 feet wide by 6 feet deep. By autumn, I finally got to put in those corner posts. Reinforce these with some boulders, and I can already foresee how some mason work will really accent the structure. I wanted to develop a base camp in this mountainous valley. See, I've often fished a salmon river that runs through, and I like to hike the peaks. So Whiskey Boy and I, we spent a lot of time out here, and over the course of the summer we put up this structure. Today we're going to put in some cross beams for the roof. I'm going to install some roof trusses up top, and I'm going to put in a back wall. So over here is where we have the roof trusses. So I had a ton of preparation in order to have enough materials to build this base camp. One of the things I needed, of course, was logs. I didn't want to harvest live trees for this purpose. So as a conservation effort, I would source fallen logs. And you know, that's kind of what we want to see. The state of the world is such that we can't afford to waste any more of these resources. Out here on this land, my father owned this land, and it's special to me. You know, as a second generation landowner, I feel that I should preserve as much as I can, and at the same time develop it in the way that I would see fit to make it comfortable. Okay, so I'm going to take one of the logs in the construction here. I need to put a cross member for the front of the roof. So I'm going to start with one of the logs that I have shaved over here. This one looks like a pretty straight one. So I'm going to start by leaning the log on this side so I can tack in the hardware on the opposite side. The front of the structure is approximately 6 foot 5 inches tall, and it slants to a 5 foot height in the rear. Right, nice. Let's get that tarp up so we can stay dry. The final step with the camp today is to install the back wall. I created the wall with a technique that was used by ancient farmers to create fences for their cattle. It is known as a wattle or a hurdle. I know some of you look at the obvious and think that looks drafty and not much protection from the element. Well, this is true. It would not be ideal for our weather here in western Newfoundland, but I wanted to try the technique as I had an idea to weave more of those grocery bags through the structure and create a waterproof wattle. So we put this in place, and I'm just going to simply tack it. I will use the wattle as a frame for a mud wall and use a mixture of clay and hay to fill in the gaps. I always wanted to try this, and I think it will be an interesting experiment. There we go. So ends a successful day on the land. We got our shelter in place, and now we're going to enjoy a little cookout on the fire. So join us next time, and until then, remember, old Sheen gonna miss you.
As long as you're with me, you
hot dogs now. Have some dogs with me dog.
Let's build a life, live for our dreams, so we can start all over, so we can learn from each other, as long as you're with me. So we can start all over, so we can learn from each other, as long as you're with me, as long as you're with me.